instead of it being 6 guys, we have to make those 6 guys be the guys. We've got a lot more choices. And so now we have to rep them and see who rises to the top in that. I mean, we've got a competition at center of 3 guys, and clearly any one of those 3 guys could be the starter. And you know, right now Jacoby's a little bit ahead, but the other 2 guys will push him, Billy Price and Chad Lindsay. So that's going to be interesting, but that's a long way from being settled. But go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of the center battle, I mean, what do you see from Chad Lindsay? I mean, coming as a senior from a pretty prestigious program. I mean, has he adjusted well from what you've seen? And
yeah, I think he had a little rust here the last couple days because he didn't go through spring ball at Alabama, so he missed some football. You know, from the end of their season. You know, his last football was early January till now. But I see a lot of good things out of him. He's very smart, very hardworking, very committed, and has good fundamental background. So all the terminology and everything was new at a no-huddle pace, which we run. And he was a little rusty because, like I said, he hadn't competed in pads in a long time. But I think he can come along.
At what point in August do you want to start paring this down to have, you know, your 5 guys in?
You know, 2 weeks, 10 days before you get to the first game, probably. You'd like to hone it in on the last 6 guys, maybe, and maybe there's one battle that's still kind of going on. And then who knows, maybe I've done this before where you have a position where 2 guys are so equal that you kind of rotate them. You know, 2 series in, next guy's in 2 series, and you kind of do it by committee at a position. So that could be the case too, you never know. But I've done that and that's worked well. So we'll just see how that plays out. But you know, we'd like to have it pretty close by then, 2 weeks to 10 days.
Talk about the other 2 spots. I think we're asking the same thing. It's the other 2. So you're not looking for 3 starters so much. You're looking for 6 or 9 guys who can play. What about the other?
Yeah, well, we're looking for 5 starters first.
Okay.
But we have a lot of choices. That's what I'm saying. There's probably 10, 11 guys to choose from for that.
Are the other 2 any more clear cut?
You know, I mean, I think for sure Taylor will start,
right.
You know, and he's moved over to left tackle. I think Pat will probably start. I mean, those 2 guys have kind of established themselves. Then the other positions are a battle. I mean, you've got Darryl Baldwin and Chase Ferris battling. Yep. Evan Lyle's working there as well, some at tackle.
Okay.
You know, at the other guard position, you've got Tony Underwood. You've got Joel Hale working there. Marcellus Jones, who came in January, is working in there in the 2 deep. I mean, he's got some talent, so we'll just see how that plays out.
How about the freshmen? Knox or Jamarco, are they making?
Oh, they're pretty impressive. They're pretty impressive. We'll see if see how it plays out as they go through training camp. But wow, they both really impressed me today. They didn't. They're the kind of guys that should be at Ohio State.
Pretty different of the guys. I mean, Dontre evidently has gotten better as a receiver, etc. But who are some of the
in the backfield? I mean, Ezekiel and Curtis Samuel are explosive and can make big plays out on the perimeter. Devin Smith's had a couple good days. Corey Smith has had a good camp so far. Dontre, like you said, is doing well. We're hoping that Johnny Dixon can come along. So, I mean, some of those skill guys are making plays, and then Cardell continues to do good things.
Is there something to be said for the fact that these guys are going up every day in practice against the defensive line?
Oh, no question. That's probably the thing that you have to keep in perspective is that every day, if we can hold our own against what I think is a really good defensive line, I won't assess them nationally, but I think they're as good as I've seen in my career, so they're pretty good. And to go against them every day, so we either have to step up to the plate and compete at that level, or we're going to look bad in practice. So that's going to be our challenge, and if we can do that, then we'll end up having a pretty good offensive line.
When you talk about them being the best you've seen in your career, are you talking about just from an activity standpoint, from a physical standpoint? What stands out about
standpoint, effort standpoint, work ethic. Larry Johnson's really, starting to bring them along. That next step that, they were ready to do. I mean, and it's too early to tell if we can hang in there with them. We only went 2 days with no equipment on, and we didn't go against them. Today was the first day we went against them, so we'll watch the film.
The battle for center to start, how's that going, and are you pleased with what you see out of Jacoby and Lindsley?
Yeah, I'm really. Jacoby's a competitor. He's a tough guy. He works hard in the weight room. He's a Boren, and Borens compete, and they win. They're winners. So he's got that going for him, and he's smart. Chad's played football at a high level in another program for a long time, and Billy Price is as talented a guy on our offensive line as we have. I mean, talking to Coach Mick, what he can do physically is unmatched by anybody on our team. So his talent level is high, and he just was a D lineman when he came. We moved him over. We're training him to be a center or a guard, and we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of good pieces there. We'll just see how it plays out.
You compare how you feel about the offensive line now versus exactly 2 years ago with what you had then.
I know these guys better because I've been around most of them for 3 years, you know, so I know these guys better. I just didn't know how some of those guys would respond in pressure situations, you know what I mean? So that's probably the biggest difference, is just not sure. But once we got going and those guys got their confidence and they understood our system, they really started to play for us. It's different, you know, you just can't compare, it's different, you know.
Hey Ed, how's Chad dealing with what must be the frustration of being a college football veteran that in some ways has to start over?
Oh, I don't think he looks at it that way. I think he was excited to come to Ohio State. I think he was we told him when we recruited him to come here for this 1 year that there was an open job there and that he'd have to come in and compete against a couple guys that have been here that are competitors, and he chose to want to do that. So I think he's had a great attitude about it. He's done everything we've asked. So I think he's just loves being a part of this team and hopes he can make a contribution, see where he goes.
You know, last year, like you said, you touched on this a minute ago, y'all knew what you were sort of mindset-wise going into the season from an offensive standpoint with Braxton and Carlos, and then is it kind of an unknown right now exactly what y'all are going to be about?
Well, we have to, you know, see. Yeah. That's what training camp's for, is to figure out who you are. You know, figure out who's improved, what are we better at, what aren't we as good at, how do we want to get our yards. You know, if you can't get some of your yards this way, can you get them another way? And that's the beauty of our system on offense, is we can do a lot of different things. And so, you know, that's what we want to figure out here over the next few weeks. And then once we get to, you know, a week before Navy, then we'll hone in on this is who we're going to be and kind of go with that.
Is there a hope that you're going to have maybe a little more diverse lineup of weapons if you can't just bludgeon people the way as much as you did?
Yeah. Earlier, I had said that you weren't over, but yeah, I think we have a lot of weapons on the perimeter. You know, we have weapons at tight end, we have weapons at wide receiver. We're gaining confidence in those guys. Are getting better and better, and then our running backs are fast. So we have different ways to manufacture those yards, and you know, see how we can develop a passing game that goes with the run game. You know, and we can be more diverse, I would say.
Last question with Coach.
Have you guys been able to evaluate it all? Carlos seemed to get a lot of yards after that initial contact. He never went down on the first hit, it seemed like.
Correct.
Have you guys evaluated like how much that helped your offense? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
How did you sort of make up for that?
You know, I mean, he's probably good for 50, 60 yards a game after contact. That's significant. The question is, do the guys that carry the ball now have the ability to do that?
Yeah.
That's what we'll find out, you know, because we didn't think that about him when 2 years ago when we threw him in there. He was overweight, out of shape, and third team, and all of a sudden some injuries, and next thing you know, he's called to duty, and boom, he starts playing. And then last year he came off a couple game suspension and started rolling and was in great shape. And so we'll see. I know those two guys that are playing running back right now run really hard and break a lot of tackles with speed. They may not just break them just running over guys, but they run through arm tackles and they're explosive. So.